Okay, welcome everyone. So today's topic is fleet versus rentals in 2023. Which one works and why? So we do have a small audience while people join. Who would like to start by saying what you are currently working on and what strategies you're currently working on or considering for 2023? Who wants to jump in and go first?
I will.
Okay, go, Stanley.
I'm getting one in the Stone Park. I'm working on it to close. I got it under contract from a wholesaler. I've been talking to a few other people. They talked to me, and I told them I was an investor. And one real estate lady said that they're using 65% now as your factor to multiply. And I asked her, is that just for for flipping, or is that what she goes for flipping? And I think someone else said they dropped down to 70%.
Right.
So is that what we're
Right.
trying to do because we're not sure of the market?
I'll cover that in just a second. That's a great question. So we're sticking to just to give a quick answer. So what Stanley's talking about, how do you come up with your max allowable offer, meaning the most you should pay for a property? And that's going to be driven by your exit strategy. So if you're going to do a flip, a rental, or a wholesale, given the current market conditions where you have declining values, then you've got to be very conservative with the offer that you make. So the formula that we typically use to compute the most amount that we should pay for the property is the after repair value times, before we used to multiply that 75, now is 70% for a flip. Minus the rehab, and that's going to give you your max allowable offer. If it's a wholesale, then you need to include or factor in your assignment fee. So typically most wholesalers take the after repair value times 65% because they account for a 5% assignment fee or wholesaling fee minus the rehab. Okay, and that's going to give them the most they should pay for the property. Example, if the after repair value is 200,000, right? So we're going to multiply that times 70% if we're going to flip it. So that's 140,000. Let's assume the rehab is 40,000. So 140 minus 40, that means the most.
I lost your sound, Hugo.
Thank you. So we do need to stick to those numbers since we're in a very challenging market. So for the Stone Park property, are you going to flip the property? Are you going to keep it as a rental, Stan?
I'm going to keep it as a rental.
Okay, perfect. What's the ARV? How much did you buy it for? How much are you?
The ARV was 222, and wholesaler wants 112, and there's a 40 rehab.
Okay, so let's quickly run the numbers. So ARV, I'm going to put it up on the screen so that I share this. I'm sharing the screen. So ARV is 220.
Right.
Times, I'm going to do the 70% minus how much? That's
40.
154 minus 40. That's about 115,000. How much do you have it on the contract for?
112.
Okay, so it's right there. So I think you're going to for a great price. Now the key in this particular scenario is to make sure that you stay within budget, right, for the rehab. Luckily, you have construction background, so it's going to be a lot easier for you to stay within budget. So that's a competitive advantage that you have over any other investor.
Right.
So I think that's going to work great. Now, why did you decide to keep it versus selling it?
No, I just want to build up a rental portfolio, and I think that selling right now is going to be too difficult. That I think the market's dropping. I was looking on the MLS, and there's quite a few properties that drop price 20 grand. So,
Absolutely.
so it'd be
Absolutely.
the time that it would take to sell it. I think would be not worth. It would eat up too much of the profit.
Absolutely. Right on the spot, Stanley. So yeah, that's exactly what's happening right now due to the Fed interest hikes. That has affected the mortgage interest rates and therefore the purchasing power of buyers. So we have a smaller pool of buyers, so the demand for real estate has gone down tremendously. Therefore, that's helping correct prices, right? Because uh, during the pandemic, I mean, people were outbidding, right? They were offering above asking prices. So property prices just went through the roof. Now it's the time for price correction, right? Um, so the reason why the Fed is increasing the rates, I mean, they have increased the rates 5 times this year, and there's still two more hikes coming up, one before the end of the year this month, and then one sometime in January or February, because they want to control inflation. Right now, inflation is at 7%. The government goal is to have inflation at 2%. So think about that. They have increased the rates tremendously and especially very fast, right, to control inflation. But that's not happening. That's the problem, right? They still need to continue, and that's the expectation for rates to continue to go up to control inflation. So inflation is the increase of goods and services, right? So we typically see that on gas prices, right? We've seen the gas prices going as far as 40% higher than what they used to be 7 to 9 months ago. Okay, so the consumer feels that increase. Food, just basic services and goods, right? So that's what the government is trying to achieve by increasing the rates. But what's the ripple effect in real estate? It's huge, right? Because then right now it's really, really challenging for buyers to acquire properties, right? The reason why is because now their purchasing power has decreased by 20 to 30%. Okay, not only that, but then lenders have tightened their requirements for funding. Therefore, flippers right now are struggling, right? They cannot get their property sold. So market time has gone up from 30 days to 3 months, okay? And then some are unable to sell the properties, okay? Therefore, they have to drop the prices. So you're gonna see huge property prices on the MLS overall, right? So for some motivated sellers. So what does that mean to the investor, right? For the investor, is this good or is this bad? When property prices are dropping, what would you say?
I would say it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for investors, it's great
Mhm.
because you're gonna find motivated sellers, right? You're gonna truly identify properties whose prices have dropped significantly. Therefore, um, it's easier to identify motivated sellers who they just need to sell, right? So it's a great opportunity right now to buy properties and with the objective to buy and hold, okay? Flipping right now has become extremely challenging because let me tell you, to be able to successfully flip a property, you need to have three components in place. You need to buy it for the right price, you need to rehab it for the right amount. If you go over, that's going to jeopardize your profit. And you need to sell it for the right price. So it is very challenging to have those three components. In fact, all the odds are against you. Are you going to buy it for the right price? Perhaps, because right now we're in a declining market where property values are dropping. So will you be able to buy it for the right price? As long as you stick to the formula that we just talked about, right? The after repair value times 70% minus the rehab. So that's number one. The second point is the rehab, right? That's a real challenge today because of the increase in labor and materials costs. Okay, so sticking to the budget, really challenging today. During the pandemic or even before, we used to do rehabs for 3 bedroom, 2 bath under 45,000. Today we're hitting 50, 55, 60,000. So you'll see an increase of 20 to 30% in labor and materials. Okay, so hitting your rehab target is very challenging today, right? Unless you have construction background like Stanley does, then it's easier. And finally, being able to sell the property for where you're expecting to sell the property. That's the biggest challenge right now because as Stanley said, right? Properties, I mean, he's seen huge drops in the market. So we're experiencing 10 to 15 up to 20% price drops, depending on the market, right? So you're anticipating to sell the property, let's say in the next 2-3 months by, let's say 120,000, but who knows, right? You may not be able to get that money. You might be able to, maybe if you get lucky, 100,000. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on the flip. Therefore, our recommendation is to stay away from flips. It is just not worth it. But instead, you should stick to rentals. Okay, so rentals right now are extremely attractive. Why? You can get a great deal because property prices are adjusting. So you are able to negotiate. So the table has switched. Before it used to be a seller's market, right? They were getting above asking prices during the pandemic, but now it's the other way around. You're in a buyer's market. Before, buyers used to waive inspection contingencies. They used to pay crazy earnest money. They used to pay cash for the properties. Not anymore. You no longer need to waive contingencies like inspection contingencies, mortgage contingencies. You no longer need to offer cash for properties. Why? Because there are very few buyers out there. Okay, so it's a great time for investors to get a better deal. You have less competition, a greater ability to negotiate an amazing deal in today's market conditions. So the table has switched to become a buyer's market, okay? And the second point that you have to your advantage on rentals is that rents have gone through the roof. Why? Think about this. People who can no longer buy a property, they're moving into the rental market. That has pushed rents through the roof, okay? Including Section 8 has already released their new rental amounts. Let me give an example. A 3 bedroom house in the south suburbs, as of now, they're paying out for a 3 bedroom, 2020. As of January 1st, 2023, they will increase the payout to 2,200. So it's a 10% increase. I mean, they're trying to catch up with the rental market and they're doing great. So in fact, we're holding off on renting 3 properties right now that we have in the pipeline to stabilize to take advantage of the rent increases by January 1st. Okay, so right now we're seeing incredible cash flow deals. Okay, whereas before we used to cash flow 250, 300, 400 was like an amazing property, right? Today we're seeing even up to $1,000 in positive cash flow in some of these rentals that we own. So the rental market has become extremely attractive. And think about this: rentals is the way to go for the long run. Okay, you've got to think long term when you talk about real estate, because that's the true power of wealth accumulation in real estate through rentals. Flips and wholesaling are great strategies, but they're sort of like short term. And flips right now, I would say, too risky, out of the question. Leave them for a different market. Okay, wholesaling, great. Okay, and then rentals, the best two strategies that you can engage in. So let me give you another framework that we typically use to quickly decide whether we're going to rent or flip, that oftentimes investors oversee. Number one, the market where you're investing will determine if it's more viable for a rental or a flip. Because we have, for instance, Berkeley, Burbank. Those are amazing rental markets where the purchase price of a single family home is still affordable, yet the rents are over 2,000. Right? So it's an amazing rental market, right? Because your numbers are going to work amazing. And then some markets are flipping markets, right? Where primarily they're B plus, A minus markets, where the infrastructure is amazing, the schools are awesome, people want to move to those markets, yet single family homes are too expensive, but let's say condos, townhomes are still affordable. So they're amazing flipping markets for that type of asset, attached homes like condos, townhomes, and duplexes. Okay, so the market where you are is going to drive your exit strategy. So that's number one. Okay, and we have a list of all those markets. We have already updated most of our areas. We have analyzed over 300 areas. They're up to date as of now, so we can tell you the top flipping and rental markets. But again, flipping today, it's a strategy that we are no longer recommending. In fact, we personally have stopped doing flips. We're focusing on rentals and wholesaling, okay? Just to keep things safe or safer, because flips are extremely risky, okay? You can pretty much break even or perhaps lose if you don't buy it for the right price, go over budget on the rehab, or don't sell it for the price that you are thinking you would sell it. Okay, so super careful with flips. And the second tip of advice, the framework that tells us whether we should flip or rent is as follows. Take the positive cash flow for the subject property for the next 10 years. So for instance, if you were to rent, let's take Stanley's property in Stone Park, right? If he was to rent the property today, he might be cash flowing $300-400 per month, right? So take that cash flow for the next 10 years. So let's say 400 times 12 months, it's 4,800 times 10 years, 48,000. If Stanley was to try to flip this property, will he make 48,000? I highly doubt it. Therefore, the better option is to keep it as a rental. So that's how we can determine whether we should rent or flip. Will the cash flow be for the next 10 years be greater than the net profit on the flip? So that's going to help you determine. And right now, due to the rents being so high, it's just like sort of like a no-brainer, right? To take the property and turn it into a rental. The rehab doesn't need to be perfect. The numbers, when you buy it, you can afford to perhaps don't stick to the 70% formula. You can maybe get away with the 75% and still make the numbers work. Why? Because the rents are very strong. The rental market is super strong. So that will guarantee a 25% equity on the back end if you stick to the 75% formula. And right now, when you put a property for rent, it's just insane. We just put a property for rent maybe 2 weeks ago. On the first showing, we had like over 25 people, and we ended up renting it like the next day, right? We were able to pick and choose the top candidate. Okay, we had multiple people apply for the property, and we were able to command top rent for the property. Insane. It's just an insane market for rental. Um, so yeah, that's what's happening in today's market condition. It has switched over to the buyer. Okay, so it's a buyer's market, a rental market for sure. Are there any other questions? Anybody who wants to jump in and share their experience? Cheryl, David, Emre, Gary, John, Marlon, Nick, Shad, Stanley, Will. Anybody who would like to share your what you're currently working on or any questions that you may have? So let me give you quick stats on what's happening with the rental market in 2022, right? So the year review, let me move this over so everyone can see this. Okay, so there is a strong rental market with over 50% of the population renting. Okay, so we have very little home ownership at this point. Some areas have as little as 20, 30% home ownership, and 60, 65, up to 70% of the population are renting. Okay, so those are amazing rental markets. Number two, check this out. There's been an increase of 25% in a one-bedroom apartment. And that's just the average rent compared to the previous year. So this is a huge increase, never seen before. Two bedroom, a 26% increase from last year. Three bedroom, 14% increase. And then for the bigger houses, there's a lesser increase. So focus on 2 to 3 bedrooms, and you're gonna really maximize your cash flow. Now, let me quickly share the 5 issues that we're facing in 2023 and how you need to cope and strategize for next year. Okay, so number 1, we quickly talked about this, inflation versus interest rates. Okay, so the inflation today is at 7%. The target from the government is to bring down inflation to 2%. Therefore, we've seen rapid hike increases from the Fed in the last 7 months, okay, 5 of them, and then we're gonna end up with probably 2 more, okay, in the next couple of months. So the objective has not been met to bring the inflation down to 2%. So this is affecting, obviously, mortgage rates. Mortgage rates are somewhere they're hovering 8, 8.5, but they're expected to go a little bit higher, up to 9, 9.5 in 2023. Okay, so check this out. Look at this graph. How we are seeing inflation in 2022 right now at 7.5%. It's gone down due to the hike increases. But look at this. It used to be hovering inflation. I'm talking about inflation, hovering 8.5. It's gone down by about a point in the last 6 months, but not enough, right? So the Fed's objective, again, is to bring it all the way at the level that it used to be in 2-3 years ago, okay? But that's going to become a challenge. So the next is obviously the price of money, okay? So construction costs hit the highest spike in the last 50 years. So what's happening, the cost of building new construction has decreased incredibly, okay? Because again, we mentioned labor and material expenses have gone through the roof, and this makes flips extremely challenging. The cost to own obviously is a lot higher, right? Because somebody getting a mortgage today are gonna end up paying 7.5 at least. So this also brings pressure on the inventory supply for properties. Why? Because think about this: will people sell today? Not really, unless they have to, unless they're going, they're downsizing, getting divorced, moving to a better school district. There's got to be a really strong reason for people to sell, because otherwise, most likely, existing homeowners have a mortgage with a low interest rate, okay? So if they were to sell them and get a new house, guess what? They're going to end up with a huge mortgage payment at a very high interest rate. So that is why they're not selling. Inventory supply will continue to remain low, okay? The cost to buy, expensive. Right now, for retail buyers, is one of the worst time to buy. Why? Low inventory supply, meaning not too many houses to choose from, and high interest rates. So just the perfect conditions to have the worst case scenario for retail buyers. However, for investors, it's really good, because we can see motivated sellers, especially sellers that own properties that are in need of repairs. Okay, so which is what we're looking for as investors. So as you can see, CNBC, borrowers are feeling the squeeze as interest rates climb while inflation remains high. Okay, so that's sort of like the perfect storm, right? So people are being squeezed left and right from mortgage rates being so high and inflation still being extremely high at 7% or a little bit over 7%. So the cost of goods and services remain still high, right? Challenge number 3, corporate profit and losses. So what happens when inflation is high? The cost of gas is high. What happens to the profit to corporations? It diminishes, right? Because their expenses, their cost of goods and services has gone up. So they are squeezing their profits. So what happens when the corporations are sort of like not making what they're expecting, or perhaps breaking even or losing or incurring losses? You're right. They will have layoffs. And that's a huge problem, right, for the economy. If you have an increase in unemployment, that's going to affect personal savings, right? Because people are going to not have income, money to spend. We're going to talk about that in just a second, which is unemployment. So today, unemployment is at 3.7%, but it's expected to go up to 4.5 by next year. So that's an additional 1.2 million losing their job. That's huge. And this is the biggest problem that we're going to be facing in 2023. When you have high unemployment, that means people are not gonna be able to meet their financial obligations. They won't be able to pay rent. There might be default in their mortgage payments. Their savings rate are gonna go down. They're gonna start spending their savings. It's not good for the economy, because what the economy is wanting to foster is consumer spending. And when you have high unemployment rate, it's gonna have the opposite effect. People will not spend money, right? Therefore, people are not going to be buying. This is one of the biggest challenge for 2023, okay? And again, the government, the Fed is trying to bring inflation down, but it's not happening. And I don't think it's going to happen. In the last 100 years, by the Fed increasing the rates with the objective to bring down inflation, has successfully occurred only twice in the last 100 years. Despite rapid hike increases, inflation is still extremely high at 7.5% today, okay? Therefore, corporations are going to have layoffs in 2023. That's a big problem. As you can see, Amazon has already announced 10,000 layoff scheduled for 2023, okay? So that's a big problem, right? And you've heard the news from Elon Musk on Twitter, right? The layoffs have been left and right. Tens of thousands of people have been laid off already from Twitter and many other large employers in the US. So this is going to have a very negative impact on the economy for 2023. Okay, and obviously this supports our point of flips, right? You've got to stay away from flips. Um, so what are the consequences? That people are going to spend less money and they're going to contribute to less spending in the economy. Okay, because obviously they just need to tap into their savings. Savings rates have gone down to one of the lowest, okay, in the last 4 years. And this is due to high inflation and increase in unemployment. So, does anybody have any questions so far before we continue? Anybody on the line? John, Robert, Will, Nick, Marlon, John, Emery, David, Cheryl?
No questions, Hugo. You give it good information. Keep going. Thank you.
Okay, so if no further questions, now the question is, what are we going to do for 2023? How are we going to strategize for 2023? So what we've done is we've reached out to a vast number of investors in our network to identify what they're lacking. What is it that they're struggling with today? What's preventing them from becoming more successful? Okay, so we identify three main components, three main obstacles that are holding people back in today's market condition. So we have come up with a solution for it. So I will explain to you what the main issues are with investors today. Number one, being able to identify great deals, right? And remember, due to declining values, this is an amazing time for investors to buy, okay? So the problem is that investors are not able to find great off-market deals and even MLS deals. So this is where we're going to step in, and we have created a platform for it that I will explain shortly. But that's number one problem, identifying great deals in today's market condition, being able to successfully negotiate those deals and get them on the contract for the right price, to either hold them or wholesale them. So that's number one. Second issue is funding, okay? Many people are lacking reserves or the ability to get a loan to purchase a property, right? That's in the case if you want to hold the property. If you are thinking about wholesaling, you don't need to worry about funding because you don't actually need to buy the property to wholesale it. All you're doing is getting the property on the contract and selling the rights of the contract to the end buyer, okay? So funding is a big deal for most investors. And especially today, lenders have tightened their lending requirements, okay? They're looking to lend money to people who don't actually need money. That's what it boils down to. They want to lend to pro investors. They don't want to take on new business, so they don't want to work with newbies per se. And if you don't have experience, they're going to nail you with the origination fees, interest rates, and overall terms, right? They're going to be not favorable to the investor. So this is where we have come up with a solution. And finally, the third obstacle holding investors back is not having all the puzzles, or not having all the right pieces of the puzzle, right? When doing a successful transaction, you're going to need several pieces to the puzzle. You're going to need the deal, obviously. You're going to need some capital. You're going to need some construction resources. You're going to need if you're going to hold it, some property management, or if you're going to sell it, you're going to need some marketing strategy, right? To sell it for the right price if you decide to sell it, or if you decide to wholesale it. So it's then having the right partners in place, right? Because being able to possess all the skill sets, it's extremely difficult. Having time, experience, money, construction background, it is likely, it is unlikely, highly unlikely for any investor to have them all. Therefore, we identify the need to be able to put together people, right, with the skill sets that will help them make a transaction successful. Okay, so those are the three main obstacles that people are facing. So what have we done? We've been brainstorming and putting platforms together to tackle these obstacles. So let me show you what we came up with. We came up with three solutions, finding the deals, right? So I'm going to show you what we're going to be covering. So in this module, finding deals, we have essentials for success, area selection, meaning identify where you're going to invest. We have updated all our area reports. So we're going to tell you what are the best rental markets in today's market condition. Identifying and finding deals. We're going to be focusing primarily on off-market deals because that's where you find the bigger spreads. Then you have the deal analysis. This is what Stanley was asking, right? How do you come up with the max allowable offer in today's market condition? That's going to be based on your exit strategy and the formulas that we use. So deal vetting, deal analysis has become extremely critical in today's market condition. Being able to come up with the accurate max allowable offers, meaning the most you should pay for the property. Contracts, this is going to be very important. Being able to offer the right contract to the right seller, right? So we're going to go over contracts in more details. Also, what we've done is, as part of deal finding, or we have incorporated wholesaling, right? Because it's going to be a critical piece for 2023. Okay, so we're going to help you with lead generation, lead management, and working with the seller, meeting the seller. Okay, what is it that it takes to be able to get a property on the contract? So we have put together as one course, one module, finding deals. Okay, so when it comes to the wholesaling, we have incorporated several technologies for cold calling, texting. We have a CRM. We have everything in place as of today with steroids. Okay, so we have used Russell Walker's platform and added steroids to it. So we added a lot of value to it to sort of automate, and the objective is to mimic Russell's success. In the last 6 months, he's made, because he works for our brokerage, he's made $250,000 in assignment fees in the last 6 months. It's a staggering amount. Okay, so we've been working with him closely in the last month to fully understand his platform, and not only that, add value to it. So I call it with steroids, because our objective is for you to mimic his success. That is why we incorporated his platform into the deal finding, right? Because this is going to give you the ability to become an acquisition specialist. Not only will you be able to generate leads, but be able to offer the right contract to the motivated seller to get it on the contract. We're going to help you with disposition, meaning if you decide to wholesale the deal, we can help you with selling the deal, meaning signing the contract to the end buyer or cash buyer, right? So we just want you to focus on deal finding. Whether you want to wholesale it or keep it for yourself, it's going to be entirely up to you. So we're going to become partners. So this is a very comprehensive module. So we're going to go deep down on deal finding for 2023. Okay, This is going to be one of the most critical modules that we've put together in conjunction with the wholesaling strategy. Okay, again, in 2023, you've got to think rentals and wholesaling. You've got to, for 2023, please put flipping in the back burner. Okay, you've got to maximize your return and minimize your risk. And engaging in flips is not going to accomplish that. In fact, it's going to be the opposite. You're going to maximize your risk and minimize your return in 2023. So we're going to be focusing on rentals and wholesaling. So that's the course number one on finding deals. So these we're going to offer for $9.99 for 1 year, and that will include deal analysis, support, and personalized deal alerts on off-market and MLS. Okay, when I talk about off-markets, I talk about pre-foreclosures, vacant properties, upcoming auctions, and REOs. That's off-market. Okay, so we're going to offer these for $9.99, and that will include also the lead generation platform from Russell with steroids, okay, for $9.99 for the next year. The second course is going to be funding. Okay, this is going to be one of the most important pieces if you get a great deal on the contract, should you decide to keep this for a rental. So in this case, on the funding, one of the biggest benefits is going to be accessing our own private money lenders. Okay, so we bought several properties through private funding in the last 6 months. So you're going to have access to that pool of lenders that we constantly use. Okay, they have money ready to be utilized by us and therefore by you. So funding is going to be very critical. Obviously, we will also share our Harmony lenders that we typically work with, but we will focus as well on private money lenders that we currently use. The reason why is because some of you may not have the reserves for a down payment. Because when you use a Harmony lender, you're going to need to put down 10% down, plus you're going to need reserves for holding expenses. Unless you have reserves, you will not be able to take on a loan for a fix and flip, okay? That's where the private money lenders come into the picture, okay? In some instances, we just didn't want to have any money tied up in the deal, so we borrowed the entire purchase and rehab amount from our private money lenders. Okay, so that gave us the ability to have pretty much very little or no money stuck in the deal. Okay, obviously it has to be a great deal, right? Where the numbers are going to make sense. So this is going to be one of the, I would say, the second most important module, funding. Okay, so we're going to offer this for $2.99 for 1 year, and we're going to have weekly meetings just on these modules, right? We're going to be talking about funding. We're going to be talking about deal finding in its entirety, okay? And finally, we have, for those of you who want to focus on rentals, we're going to focus on the BRRRR strategy. So you buy, rehab, refinance, and repeat, okay? So we're going to be focusing primarily on obviously closing the deal, rehabbing. Rehabbing is going to be a big piece of it, okay? And property management. So this comes with obviously the bonus of deal vetting, scope of work. So we're going to assist you in scope of work and verifying ARVs, okay? When you decide to buy and hold a property, it's very critical that you come up with an accurate scope of work and ARV, right? Because when you present the deal for funding, guess what? You're going to need to make sure that you have an accurate scope of work, right? That you present to the lender, whether it's hard money or private, and an accurate ARV. So we're going to be stepping in to assist with these 2 two important tasks of scope of work and verifying ARV, because we have spent a significant amount of time working on refinances currently, and we have the resources on the back end to help you create an accurate scope of work and ARV. So these are the three main courses that we're going to be focusing on 2023. So you can pick and choose the module that you're interested in. You can pick one module, two, or all three. If you pick everything, right, everything that I talked about, we're going to offer the entire funding, finding deals, funding, and BRRRR strategy for $14.99. Okay, that's going to include all the bonuses of personalized deal alerts, deal analysis assistance, private money lenders that we currently use, and deal vetting. Okay, $14.99 for 1 year. So this is what we came up to help investors strategize and become more successful in 2023. Okay, should you lack one of these pieces, it's going to be really challenging, right, to be successful. So we just want to provide the platform, the resources, and support for those of you who want to become successful in 2023, given the current market conditions. Okay, so we have to switch gears, and we've done a 360-degree change in our business, and we want to make these changes and resources available to all of you. Okay, for 2023, you've got to change your strategy, and we want to provide that support and hand-holding for all of you. Are there any questions on the line? Cheryl, Emre, David, John, Marlon, Nick, Rob, Sam.
Yeah, I just have a question. So pretty much for next year, we're just going to focus on rentals and, of course, wholesaling. Now, with right. So with wholesaling, do you still have to be licensed?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Wholesaling is a licensed activity. So myself, I'm a managing broker. We have 11 brokers under our brokerage. So you'll be able to leverage from our brokers, our license to do wholesaling. What that means is, let's assume that you found a motivated seller and they're ready to sign the contract with you. Both our entity and your name will go on the contract so that we can legally wholesale the property, okay? So that's going to be the condition. A licensee will have to go on contract so that it's a legal activity, right? If you don't have a license, you cannot technically wholesale properties. I mean, you can do one every 12 months, but if you want to do that as part of your skill set for 2023, we can help you, right? Because we're a brokerage, and we fully understand wholesaling. We use wholesaling friendly attorneys that fully understand wholesaling. So yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Whether you're licensed or not, we'll help you do the wholesaling.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
No problem. Are there any other questions with what we're offering for 2023? Or any questions on what you need to focus on for 2023? So again, deal finding is going to be the most important because we want to seize and get amazing deals on the contract, because it's going to be perfect for investors, right? Right now that we have declining values, to get even amazing deals. We're going to pursue rentals, and for rentals, obviously, you've got to need to have access to funding and be able to wholesale should you decide to wholesale. Okay, so we're going to help you again with the disposition, moving the property between Russell's infrastructure or cash buyer list and ours. If the deal makes sense, we'll be able to move it. Okay, and again, we're going to go into the details as to what properties and areas to focus on for identifying deals that will likely sell in 2023. So if you are interested in any of these courses, I'm going to remain on the line for the next few minutes, and please send an email to support@chicagodealvault.com as well, but I'm going to remain on the line. So send us an email with your contact information, and if you need a one-on-one conversation to cater to your needs and goals for 2023, we'll schedule that right away. We'll give you a call tomorrow. But I'm going to remain on the line for the next few minutes, for the next 5 minutes, if you want to further discuss these options. So again, let's quickly recap what we talked about in 1 minute. Due to the current market conditions, flips are extremely risky, so we highly recommend that you focus on wholesaling and rentals, okay? For wholesaling, you've got to have access to leads because you need to find a motivated seller with equity, and you've got to be able to get the property on the contract. That's going to be objective number one, deal finding for 2023. Whether you keep it for a rental or wholesale it, deal finding is going to be critical. So we're putting together the right platform for those of you who want to become a deal acquisition specialist. Number two objective or piece of the puzzle that is critical, funding, right? Whether you want to use hard money lenders or private money lenders, we're going to be assisting with the funding. And finally, if you want to pursue rentals, we're going to assist with the BRRRR strategy, right? As far as especially rehabbing, right? Being able to make sure that you come up with accurate scope of works, ARVs, because eventually you need to refinance the property that you buy and end up with a 25% equity, making sure that you fully understand the top rental markets and be able to maximize your cash flow. That's going to be the objective of engaging in a BRRRR strategy, meaning buy, rehab, refinance, and repeat, okay? So that's what we need to focus on. For 2023, expect declining values, still high interest rates. So it's going to be a very soft pool of buyers, a very low inventory supply for next year. This is not going to improve until 2024, okay? In 2024, we're going to start to see an improvement in inventory supply, lower interest rates, but for 2023, it's going to be great for investors, right? Because we're going to be able to buy properties at a great price. So there's going to be a huge focus on negotiation, okay? Offering the right contracts to the motivated seller to be able to get these properties on the contract, to either buy them for a rental or wholesaling. So yeah, I'm looking forward to helping you become more successful in 2023. Again, email us, send me a text at 773-368-4551. If you want to have a chat to cater to your objectives for next year, but we're looking forward to helping you.
How you doing, Hugo? This is Sam. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Long time no talk.
You're right.
On top of your mind, I mean, do you remember Elk Grove is a good rental place or not?
Elk Grove Village, yes, for attached homes. Okay, single family homes are still expensive in Elk Grove Village. So for detached, like condos, duplexes, yeah, it's a great market for rentals, for sure. Okay.
How about Downers Grove?
The same. Downers Grove, it's similar to Elk Grove.
Elk
Sure.
Grove,
Yeah, so we would focus on detached properties, meaning condos, townhomes. Single-family homes, the numbers are really hard on rentals, right? Because property prices are still high, but that's going to be the objective, right? We want to target for rentals B neighborhoods and A minus neighborhoods, okay? So we
Yeah.
want to find great deals in B and A minus markets, right? Where we
B.
still make the numbers work, exactly. So those are B plus A minus neighborhoods that you mentioned. So yeah, those are going to be the markets that we want to focus on because um, the rents are still going to be strong in those markets. Yet we just need to make sure that we get the properties for the right price.
Uh-huh. And Airbnb is not a good thing to do these days, right?
It's gonna be risky to do Airbnb.
Challenge.
Yeah, it's gonna be very, very challenging to do Airbnbs because during the pandemic, this is what happened, right? Most people there was a huge demand for second family homes, right? So a lot of people bought vacation or second homes, right, for investing, and some of them were turning to Airbnbs. Right now, there's a surplus of Airbnbs, right? So if you want to do Airbnbs today, there's a lot of competition, right? Uh,
Yes.
so it's going to be very challenging to do Airbnbs at this point. So short-term rentals, you just need to be very cautious. It's not the top strategy as wholesaling or rentals are.
Mhm. Hugo, how do you see the market? You think it may go lower than it is right now?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Property prices will
About
continue to
10,
drop.
10 more percent, 20%?
So they've dropped by 5 to 15% depending on the area. The expectation is that they'll continue to drop maybe 5 to 10% next year. So this is going to be great for investors, right? So that is why deal finding is going to be so critical for us investors for next year.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Great
Very
question.
good.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for joining. Please send us an email, send me a text if you want to further discuss and if you're interested in becoming more successful in 2023. So thank you everyone for joining. I look forward to speaking with you or seeing you. By the way, before I forget, we have a Christmas party. So all of you are
Uh-oh.
invited. So December 18th, please mark your calendar. Let me share that on the screen. So it's going to be in Hilton Hotel in Oakland. I'm going to send the invite. We're going to have free music, food, and drinks. Okay. We're going to have also a meeting, right? How to strategize for 2023. I'm going to give you the best secrets to take on 2023. So please make sure that you come at the Hilton Hotel in Oakland, Sunday, December 18th at 1 p.m. Okay, so please make sure that you RSVP. Free music, drinks, and food. Great entertainment and incredible content. So please make sure you join us.
Is tequila included also?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I will
please
be
make sure
there.
that you guys come, okay?
Okay.
Uh, Hilton Hotel Auckland, Christmas party, strategize for 2023. Please mark your calendar, Sunday, December 18th at 1 p.m. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.